Welcome to WhiskyCast, cask strength conversation featuring news and interviews from the world of whiskey. I'm Mark Gillespie, and this is episode number 1123 for August 24th, 2025. Coming up in a few minutes.
I've been in the industry a long time, so I know a lot of people in the industry, so it's not like I started from scratch and woke up and said, I'm going to start a brand tomorrow, because I don't know how anybody could possibly do that from scratch. It's like the people that says, I love to cook, so they open a restaurant the next day. You just can't do it.
Mike Gilmore started out with a liquor store just outside of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, making barrel picks that built Countrywide Liquors a widespread reputation. He figured there was something more than bourbon, though, and started Roaming Road Spirits, an independent bottler of cognac, Armagnac, rum, and, yes, whiskey. I'll talk with Mike Gilmore on this week's WhiskyCast In-Depth, and I'll taste his Irish single malt in the What I'm Tasting This Week department. That's just ahead, along with Behind the Label and much more. The news is next on this week's WhiskyCast.
Hey, it's Gabriel from Dewar's Whiskey. Here's a quick tip. Whenever you're pouring great whiskey, especially something like Dewar's 12-year, don't overthink it. All you need is a few glasses and a couple of people worth sharing it with. The rest takes care of itself. Back in a bit.
Crafted with time, shaped by nature, perfected by generations. From Yamazaki to Hibiki to Hakushu, every drop of House of Suntory whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from. House of Suntory, this is Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
Let's get started with the week's news. It's brought to you by the Dalmore. A receiver has been appointed to manage the affairs of Uncle Nearest Tennessee Whiskey. Columbia, Tennessee attorney Philip Young, Jr. was appointed Friday by the federal judge overseeing the lawsuit filed by Farm Credit Mid-America earlier this month. That suit claims Uncle Nearest and owners Fawn and Keith Weaver defaulted on $108 million in loans. The Weavers will be allowed to continue marketing Uncle Nearest, but Young has control over the company's finances and veto power over any moves by the Weavers. Earlier this week, the judge rejected the Weavers' request to go to mediation and also declined to sanction Fawn Weaver for her social media posts that violated a gag order in the case. Meanwhile, the Sunday Times reports bidding for the assets of the now-closed Waterford Distillery have hit a snag. Two potential deals fell through recently, one bid from a group of Irish investors and the other led by an Indian entrepreneur. The receivers have pumped the brakes on the sale process until early next year, when they will consider whether to sell the distillery as an ongoing business or break up the distillery from its casks of maturing whiskey. Turning to tariffs now, American whiskey makers are hailing a decision by Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney this week to end retaliatory tariffs on bourbon and other goods imported into Canada. The tariffs will end next Monday and will bring bourbon and other American whiskeys back to 0 for 0 status under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. The U.S. and the European Union have published the details of their trade agreement, and spirits producers in Europe are disappointed. That's because European wines and spirits will not be exempt from the 15% U.S. import tariff. In other news, Bruichladdich head distiller Adam Hannett has received a promotion. He's now the distillery's master blender, but as he told reporters on a Zoom call this week, it's not a promotion he was seeking.
Effectively, it's the same job. There's no one coming behind me yet, but I think it's a lovely moment. I think I've probably talked about before. I joined Bruichladdich in 2004, so I was about 20 years old, and I was lucky to get the opportunity, and I worked alongside Jim McEwen, whiskey legend, for many years. And when Jim retired from Bruichladdich in 2015, and I took over his role as kind of head distiller, Jim was master distiller, I felt at that time that I had not earned the right to be called a master of anything, even though I'd worked at the distillery for kind of 11 years. Jim had spent a career and become a master distiller, and I could see people across the industry who, a distillery opens up and someone who's, just about to do their first match is going, yeah, I'm the master blender, I'm the master distiller. And it didn't feel right to me. And again, I think it's a title you have to earn, particularly when you follow in someone's footsteps like Jim. And so head distiller for me was what I felt was suitable. And I suppose becoming the master blender, I suppose it's just time, and the team here have kind of decided for me rather than me decide that that's what's happening. But I've always said that I think it's for other people to decide, judging by the whiskey that we make. Ultimately, that's for me, that's the most important thing. It's the whiskey we make, and it's not just me that does it. It's a huge team here. There's over 100 people working at the distillery, and every single person has a huge part in playing into this whiskey. I mean, just thinking with Amy and the work, Amy does and the team on bringing these whiskeys to life and getting them out into everyone's hands every year, it's incredible. So I've got an easy job, Mark, really just, working with the distillers, working with the mashmen, working with the warehouse guys, and putting these whiskies together. It's great fun, but I guess I get the easy bit. It's a huge team effort, Brook Laddie.
That's Brook Laddie's Adam Hannett, and congratulations to Adam. Glenmorangie has released a new 25-year-old single malt. The Altus includes whiskey finished in Malmsey Madeira casks in the final blend created by Dr. Bill Lumsden. It'll sell for $675 a bottle in the U.S. starting in October. The Glenallachie has unveiled Billy Walker's latest creation. Sintiche Part 2 is the second release in the Sintiche series. It's a combination of Glenallachie whiskies matured in Oloroso sherry and virgin Scottish oak. It's available now in the UK for £73.99 a bottle and will be available in export markets in the coming weeks. And Glenfiddich is releasing a new 16-year-old limited edition expression that's tied to its partnership with the Aston Martin Formula One team. It's a blend of malts aged in American oak wine casks, new American oak barrels, and second-fill bourbon casks. It'll be available globally while supplies last for $75 each. Several seasonal releases made their debuts this week. Old Forester unveiled its 2025 birthday bourbon, which will only be available through an online lottery. Four Roses is releasing its 2025 limited edition small batch next Wednesday at select retailers nationwide. This year's edition is made up of 4 batches between 13 and 19 years old, using 3 of the 10 Four Roses recipes. It'll sell for around $250 a bottle. Maker's Mark is launching its 3rd annual release of its cellar-aged bourbon, with whiskeys 11 to 14 years old. It'll go on sale September 5th at the distillery and will be available nationwide in the U.S. and in global travel retail and select foreign markets. The price tag is $175 a bottle. Michter's is out with its annual release of US 1 Toasted Barrel Sour Mash whiskey. It takes the standard US 1 sour mash and finishes it in toasted American oak. Look for it at a price tag of $110 a bottle. Beam is out with the 3rd annual release of Baker's 13-year-old single-barrel bourbon. It's priced at $150 a bottle. MGP's Ross and Squibb Distillery is out with its annual release of Remus Repeal Reserve bourbon. It's the 9th release in the series and features whiskeys between 10 and 18 years old using MGP's 2 bourbon mash bills. It's priced at $100 a bottle. And MGP's Penelope bourbon brand from Lux Row Distillers has also released its 2025 estate collection, 5 different expressions aged between 10 and 13 years old that includes Omega, an 11-year-old bourbon finished in French oak Redoux Omega barrels, along with the annual Founders Reserve 13-year-old bourbon. That one is priced at $199.99 a bottle. The collection goes on sale next Friday, September 5th, as part of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. It's not a seasonal release, but it's a throwback. The James B. Beam Distilling Company is bringing back its classic bowling pin-shaped decanter for a distillery exclusive. It has whiskey inside that's 8 years old and bottled at 43.4% ABV, just the way the original pin bottles did. It's only available at the distillery in Claremont, Kentucky for $100 a bottle. And Coors Whiskey Company's Blue Run Spirits is bringing out Glimmer, a Kentucky straight bourbon finished in gin barrels. It's the first finished whiskey Blue Run master blender Shaylin Gammon has created, and the micro batch whiskey will be available in limited amounts for $150 each. And finally, mark Sunday, September 14th on your calendar. The Kentucky Distillers Association will be holding its World Bourbon Toast on that day with a live stream from the Bourbon and Beyond Music Festival in Louisville. We have a link for more details in the show notes for this episode at whiskycast.com. That's also where you can keep up with all the latest whiskey news during the week. The news is brought to you by the Dalmore.
Hello, Richard Patterson here, Master Distiller, Master Blender for the Dalmore. You know, whenever the team and I are in the world sharing our exceptional single malt, we like to keep in touch with Mark Gillespie and the latest news from WhiskyCast.
Let's check the calendar and see what's happening around the world of whiskey. Join us for special coverage the weekend of September 5th through the 7th from the Kentucky Bourbon Festival in Bardstown, Kentucky. The Whiskey Exchange hosts Joel Harrison for a tasting to celebrate his new book, The Whiskey World Tour, on September 10th at its Great Portland Street shop in London. Maltstock 2025 is the weekend of September 12th through the 14th in Nijmegen, the Netherlands. The Whiskey Show Adelaide is September 13th in Adelaide, Australia, and the Whiskey Exchange hosts an American whiskey blending session with the folks from Barrel Craft Spirits on the 18th at their London Bridge shop in London. Finally, Whiskey Live Paris is the weekend of September 27th through the 29th. If you're organizing a whiskey event, let us know about it. We'll add it to the calendars at whiskycast.com and in the WhiskyCast community app. Japanese whiskey began with Shinjiro Tori's vision to reflect the true nature and spirit of Japan. The House of Suntory was founded on these principles, guided by generations of craftsmanship that have transformed time, nature, and precision into something greater than the sum of its parts. Pure waters from the mountains of Hakushu, Mizunara oak shaped by decades of patience, a blending philosophy rooted in harmony. These aren't just techniques, they're a way of thinking, a quiet pursuit of balance and depth. From Yamazaki to Hakushu to Hibiki, every whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from and the hands that shape it. House of Suntory, the founding house of Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
We want to welcome a new sponsor this week. Glendalough Irish Whiskey will be sponsoring the In-Depth segment for the coming year, and we thank them for their support. Mike Gilmore has a good nose, so good that bourbon lovers traveled to his little liquor store in Pinedale, Wyoming to get his barrel picks. But Mike got burned out by the bourbon boom and started exploring other spirits, and he became so intrigued by the vintage rums, Armagnacs, and Cognacs he was tasting that he decided to start bottling them. Now his Roaming Road Spirits brand is a thriving independent bottler, and he's expanded into Ireland, where he's exporting classic bourbons to satisfy the thirst of American expats. I talked with Mike this week on a Zoom call. So how did you wind up in the bourbon business in the first place?
Well, that was moving out to Wyoming. I'm originally from California, and I moved out to Wyoming just looking for a change. Didn't quite know what I was going to do at the time. Liquor store came available. I thought that was kind of interesting, and so we purchased that liquor store, and we started that path of my career, and that's when I started getting into really good spirits, bourbons, whiskeys, started going out to Kentucky, building relationships with all the distilleries out here. I like to say that I was kind of doing that before it became so cool to do store picks and things like that. Yeah, those were the good days. But that's how I kind of started that. Picking the barrel picks, became a pretty strong destination place in the country. Had a good following and a strong reputation of picking great picks, and so I was named with a lot of the same stores in the U.S. that are known for doing good barrel picks. Like the Lincoln Roads of the country and such. And I thought, well, I might be onto something here with the barrel picks. People seem to like my palate and such. And so about 2.5 years ago, my loyal bourbon customers, I've had that store for 18 years too, by the way. But about 2.5 years ago, my loyal bourbon guys were coming to me and they were just kind of disgusted with the bourbon chase and the overinflated pricing of bottles, if you could even find them in the allocations and such. So they started bringing me stuff like Cognacs and Armagnacs and aged rums from all over, and they were branching out into those. And so that was kind of the movement that I first saw that. And so when they started bringing me that stuff, I was like, this is really, really good stuff. And so that's what gave me the idea to Roaming Road. And I just kind of continued that path of single cast strength, everything. That's all I do. That's what I know. And just started looking for great spirits around the world. And that's where Roaming Road was kind of devised and started from.
The whole world of barrel picks has changed, hasn't it?
It has changed a lot, and not for the good of the customer.
Yeah.
I think 6, 7, 8 years ago, barrel picks meant a lot more than they do nowadays, because there's just so many stores that are just, mailing it in and getting samples, or they don't even get samples and they say, send me a barrel, which the distilleries love, because that's how, they get rid of all the barrels that I've been there on site doing picks from forever, and they don't pass muster. So they get passed on, and that's how they get rid of them. So I think there's a lesson of quality out there for barrel picks, because they're not invested in it, and they're not even trying to bring the best product to their customers, because there's just no effort. They say, if it's picked by us, it's a store pick, it's going to sell. And it really has. But I'm trying to educate people and say, listen, ask, did you pick this? Who picked it? Are they here? Can I talk to them? That kind of thing. Because they don't know what they're getting in these bottles, and they're throwing them out as store picks. So it has gotten a lot worse over the years, in my opinion.
A lot of the fun has gone out of bourbon, hasn't it?
It's been like sucking the air out of a balloon. That's what it feels like. It's all that fervor and passion that people had for bourbon are kind of disgusted with it. And, they've got the zigzag painted lines in the parking lot of Buffalo Trace for when they release, Eagle Rare and Blanton's. I think people are kind of tired of that. And I think that's a good thing, because I think they're going to branch out into other spirits that are readily available and great values, which is another reason why I started the Roaming Road, because, I think I have a 32-year-old cognac, single cast strength on my website, and it's $149. 20-year Armagnacs are $120. So I think there's a value there in some really, really good spirits. But yeah, there's definitely a fatigue in the bourbon world for sure.
I've said for years that Armagnac is a great alternative to whiskey for those who are looking for something new.
Absolutely. And that was some of the first stuff those guys were bringing me, and they were just bourbon to the core. And it's a great, easy step for bourbon drinkers. I love it. It really hits well with the bourbon drinkers. And as I'm tasting this stuff all over the country and outside of the country, people are just like, I had no idea. What is this? This is incredible. Same with the aged rums. The aged rums have been an absolutely huge success for me because of the bourbon drinkers who I'm kind of designed this brand for. That's the demographic that I think is the most disheartened right now, that are so easy to bring over into new spirits. And so I've kind of focused on those guys because that's the world I come from. So I have a lot of those guys. And that's been super successful. When they try a 20-year-old aged rum or an 18-year aged rum, no additives, no sugars, not not some of this adulterated stuff out there. It's not Captain Morgan's. This is true stuff, but nothing but distillate, thyme, and wood. That's it. And it's just really, really good. And they're just really surprised by it. And it's bringing a lot of those guys over. I think I credit Foursquare with bringing the most bourbon guys over, because that was such an easy approach for bourbon guys if you've ever had Foursquare rum. And so that's kind of what I do, except I just do it all over the world with many different regions.
But you're still doing it out of Kentucky, right?
Yeah, I partner with Bardstown Bourbon Company. So they do all my cask storage. They do all my bottling for me here in the U.S. They handle all the domestic U.S. operations for me. And they're great. They're a great partnership to work with. They really help the smaller brands that they have. And so it's just really convenient, which is another reason why I'm here now I'm going to drill some of my stock here as I'm doing the barrel picks at the other places. So I'm always here, and I always find a good reason to be here.
Now, explain how you got out of the liquor store business.
The new brand takes up a lot of time. You have federal licensing. I have import licenses. I'm the importer as well for my brand. So I'm kind of the one man show that does everything, and it just became too much to take on all that stuff. I also can't hold any liquor licenses associated with my federal licenses. So it was a good time to change anyway, because I was just finding myself not having any time, because as much as I travel around the world. And so it was a good transition, and I'm super happy to be in this industry. I really, really enjoy it. I love it, and everybody that's in it.
But you're still working with your liquor store.
Yeah, I'm doing consulting stuff, the barrel picks and such, because I have a customer base and a following that's been there for so long. It's hard to just cut them off. I want to try to at least provide some good product for them still, even with the new owners that are coming in. And I felt that was kind of the best way to do it and not have any association with it.
How hard is it to find these spirits? We know you can go to Kentucky and find good barrels for the most part, but when you're going to places like Belize and Barbados, it's kind of hard to make those connections at first.
It's very hard, and a lot of it was from I've been in the industry a long time, so I know a lot of people in the industry. So it's not like I started from scratch and woke up and said, I'm going to start a brand tomorrow, because I don't know how anybody could possibly do that from scratch. It's like the people that says, I love to cook, so they open a restaurant the next day. You just can't do it. And so the connections that I had have introduced me to people here that then took me to 3 other people. And I've just built a network of relationships off of people that I've known for a long time. It's really the only way to do it. I don't do anything by samples. Even way back in my bourbon days, I've always been on site in Kentucky at the distilleries. It's the same around the world for wherever I'm going. I feel like it's the best way to build relationships. And I think I get better stuff that way, because I'm sure they get 100 calls a day, send me samples of stuff, and they don't know who they are. They don't know the brand. They don't understand the person. They don't understand anything. So it's not super cost effective, but it's been the way I've done things for the last 18 years. And I'm not going to change that. I think it's very important to have that human connection of the personal relationship with people.
Tell me the story behind your Irish whiskey, this 7-year-old single malt.
Yeah. And so I started looking for, after my Rums and my Cognacs and my Armagnacs, I go, you know what? I really love Irish whiskey. I just wish Irish whiskey had a fuller profile, something a little more. That's why everybody loves Irish, because it's so easy to drink. It's very approachable. But I wanted something more, and I knew it was out there. So I took a trek out to Ireland and started working off my relationships there, talking to distilleries and different people and making connections, and started looking for casks. And I found that cask there, among other things. And so that was kind of my first release that I brought back. I really like that one. I think it comes in around 115 proof. It's got a really nice fuller profile to it, because it's single cask and cask strength. And I'm not a huge fan of finishing barrels, but if it's done right, I'm a fan. And so I'm very, very picky about finishing barrels, and it needs to accentuate the spirit itself and not overpower it, which I find a lot in the US. There's a lot of finishing stuff going on, and it's almost, I feel like they're hiding subpar or bad whiskey to start with, and they finish it with these very strong sherry casks, Amberana casks, all these different things that are happening. So I'm good with it if it works, but I'm very, very picky with it. And that one actually worked very, very well. It adds some nice dark fruit notes to it. But that single malt Irish whiskey is the star of that. And I love the fuller profile, which is exactly what I was going there after, is to bring something back to the U.S. that is a fuller Irish profile. And that's exactly what that is. And every single person that I've tried that on, they've said, I'm not a big fan of Irish whiskey, because they're bourbon guys to the core. And so I said, just try this one. I think you might find it different. And when they do, they like, all right, this is the best Irish I've ever had. And so I accomplished what I was after, getting that fuller profile that bourbon guys can relate to, because I think Irish is a little bit too light for them, which is their experience with it.
And you've actually got a base in Ireland now, right?
I do. So based off of that trip, working the market in Dublin, I noticed there was kind of a missing band of bourbons. The only bourbons I saw was Bullet, Woodford, so the Brown-Forman, Diageo type stuff. There's a lot of Americans living in and around Dublin because of all the U.S. companies that are there, like tens of thousands. And I thought, these guys probably want something from home that they're kind of missing. They're probably bourbon drinkers. And so I had this idea to start exporting bourbons and rye whiskeys from Kentucky here in Bardstown, because I have stocks that I've accumulated over the years of casks that I found really, really good. And I basically bought them and just hoarded them because I didn't want anybody else to have them. Had no reason for them at the time, but now I actually have a purpose for those. So I've been exporting those over to Ireland, and then I put them in freshly dumped Irish whiskey casks on the coast of Ireland and bring that Irish influence into the Kentucky bourbon and kind of bring the two countries together. It's never been seen over there. It's never been done before. And it was an idea to start with. And I thought it would work because it just made sense to me. And so since then, I've kind of launched over there, and it's been doing extremely well. I got invited to the U.S. Embassy for the July 4th celebration with the brand. And after that, that was for 2,000 people. And after that, it just blew up in Dublin. And so I'm kind of branching that out now to Scotland and London, and then some other countries behind that. When I worked the Scottish market, they kind of suggested, well, what about some sort of Scotch cask finishing like you do for Ireland? So we have something to bring the two countries together. And so that's in the works now for Scotland as well. But right now it's all Irish finished.
How worried are you about the trade wars that are going on?
It hasn't affected me quite yet. I feel like I'm hedged with the export side of it, because I do have a lot of contacts and stuff in the EU, which would mean I could bring things from the EU to Ireland, which is EU. And so I almost look at it as a hedge to the US side of it, because I can deal with the countries directly over there. And so I haven't been hit with any outrageous tariffs yet. And so when I do, I think it's one of those things that you just kind of don't know. It's daily, it changes. And when it comes, you'll just have to kind of deal with it and try to find a better way around it. But I'm glad I have now an international side that helps with moving things around and kind of negating those tariffs a little bit.
How are you going to define success 5-10 years from now?
If I'm still happy and I love what I do, which I do with a passion, I'm extremely passionate about all of the stuff that I do. I don't put out, it's why I do single cast, because I don't do 10,000 bottles. It's a passion project for me, which means that I think I don't throw out bottles or buy cast just to have something to sell. It's got to be special, and it's got to be something that fits my reputation and my name and what I do. And so I'll never probably get rich at it, but if I can expand out in some other countries and bring these spirits to a bigger market and let more people experience them and enjoy them, I think I would be happy with my legacy at that point. I just love what I do, and everything about it. So if I feel that same way in 5 years and I've expanded to more people getting to try it, I'll be happy.
You'll find a link to the Roaming Road Spirits website in the show notes for this episode at whiskycast.com. And that's WhiskyCast In-Depth, brought to you by Glendalough Irish Whiskey.
Our story begins in the wilds of County Wicklow, the Garden of Ireland, a place where nature moves slowly and meaningfully. Some whiskies blend in, Glendalough Double Barrel stands apart. I'm Rowdy Rooney, head distiller here at Glendalough, and I personally oversee our whisky making process from start to finish. We do things slowly, and we do them right. We start with a smooth, single-grain Irish whisky. We age it in flame-charred American oak for soft vanilla and a honeyed depth. Then we finish it in Oloroso casks from a small bodega in Spain. Casks we season and ship ourselves to make sure the wood is still alive with character when it arrives. That kind of care gives Glendalough Double Barrel its rich layers of dried fruit, warm spice and signature smoothness. This is a whisky at its own pace, and it's worth every second. This is Glendalough Double Barrel, crafted to stand apart.
Let's start off the What I'm Tasting This Week department with the Roaming Road Spirits Irish Single Malt. It's a 7-year-old whiskey from an undisclosed distillery and is bottled at cask strength, 57.6% ABV. The nose is malty with a touch of figs, charred oak, toasted coconut, honey, and vanilla. The taste has a smooth and creamy mouthfeel with notes of barley sugar, figs, baking spices, and toasted coconut. The finish is long and nutty, and I'm scoring the Roaming Road Spirits Irish Whiskey a 92. Next up, this year's Old Forester Birthday Bourbon. It's from a single day's production, though it carries no age statement, and it's bottled at 46% ABV. The nose has touches of caramel, toasted oak, apple pie, soft spices, leather, and tobacco. The taste has spicy notes of cinnamon, black pepper, and allspice, balanced by red apples, honey, and vanilla. And the finish is long and well-balanced between fruity notes and spice. I'm scoring the 2025 Old Forester Birthday Bourbon a 92. Finally, let's look at the 2025 Four Roses Limited Edition Small Batch. It's a 13-year-old blend with whiskey 19 years old in the mix and uses 3 of the 10 Four Roses recipes. It's bottled at 54.5% ABV, and the nose has touches of apricots, caramel, vanilla, and honey. The taste has notes of apricots, creme brulee, charred oak, a hint of citrus fruits, and honey, and they carry over into a long, luscious finish. I'm scoring the 2025 Four Roses Limited Edition Small Batch a 93. I'll be adding these whiskeys to our searchable list of more than 3,900 different whiskeys from all over the world. Check it out this week at whiskycast.com.
Throughout the years, Dewar's has created some incredible whiskeys, but our new Dewar's 12-year-old, that one's a personal favorite. It's the kind of scotch that earns praise from the pros, but still feels right at home in the middle of a good night with friends. Every pour opens up with notes of vanilla, toffee, baking spice, and a smooth oak finish. It's rich, it's approachable, and it has a way of bringing people together. Whether it's around the table, the fireplace, or just wherever the night happens to take you. Look, the glasses may hold the whiskey, but the whiskey, that's what holds the moment. Please enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025, Dewar's is a trademark. Imported by John Dewar & Sons Company, Coral Gables, Florida. Blended Scotch whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume.
Let's open up the WhiskyCast community app and see what people are talking about this week in our community segment. After I posted the news about the end of Canada's import tariffs on American whiskeys and other goods covered by the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement, Canuck Sloth posted this comment. Makes sense since this is covered by the Free Trade Agreement. My view is the far bigger problem for U.S. companies is the consumer boycott, both the government one, but also consumers choosing to buy Canadian or other non-U.S. products. Ontario will be a province to watch. The Ontario Premier and the Prime Minister are friends. At the same time, the tariffs have cost 38,000 manufacturing jobs in Canada so far. That may be a very hard sell to those regions. So far, only 2 Canadian provinces have ended their official boycott of American whiskeys, Alberta and Saskatchewan. Peter Sprunger posted this comment on the Uncle Nearest receivership and the appointment of a Tennessee lawyer as the receiver. That's a small victory for Uncle Nearest, and I hope they make it through this difficult time. Nevertheless, with the downturn in whiskey sales for multiple reasons, I'm resigned to the very high likelihood that there will be fewer choices on the shelves in 10 years. I just hope that those producing the best whiskey survive, so while I may lament fewer options, I won't lament a decrease in quality. And on a completely unrelated note, Alan Chanel posted this the other day in the app. I've just recognized one benefit of whiskey. If your power has been knocked out by a storm, you don't have to open the refrigerator door to access a bottle of whiskey. Yes, no beer for me tonight. Making do. Hope the power wasn't out for long, Alan. And if you have a power outage to report, or anything else you'd like to share with whiskey lovers around the world, download the free WhiskyCast community app from your app store and join the conversation. You can also find us on social media. Just look for WhiskyCast on X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. And our email address is comments@whiskycast.com. Let's close out the show now with Behind the Label, our look at the history, science, and people who make whiskey unique. What's in a definition? In whiskey, it depends on who's doing the defining. Take, for instance, the term small batch. There's no official definition for what exactly is a small batch, and it's left up to the whiskey makers to decide for themselves, at least until the lawyers get involved the way they did with all of the lawsuits a few years ago over the use of the term handmade in bourbon. One distiller's standard batch may be 75 barrels, but at larger distilleries where standard batches are hundreds of barrels, that 75-barrel batch may indeed be a small batch. Of course, the smallest batch of all is a single barrel, and though it may seem repetitive, Wild Turkey actually labeled a Russell's Reserve expression many years ago as a single-barrel small-batch whiskey. If there's something you'd like us to look at on an upcoming episode, just get in touch with us. That's all for this episode of WhiskyCast. You'll find links for the stories in this episode in our show notes at whiskycast.com. That's also where you'll find the latest whiskey news, my tasting notes, the calendar of events, and a complete archive of past episodes going all the way back to 2005. Get in touch with us, download the free WhiskyCast community app from your app store, or find us on social media. We're on Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, X, and Facebook at WhiskyCast, and the email address is comments@whiskycast.com. Crafted with time, shaped by nature, perfected by generations. From Yamazaki to Hibiki to Hakushu, every drop of House of Suntory whiskey is a reflection of where it comes from. House of Suntory, this is Japanese whiskey.
Enjoy responsibly. Suntory Whiskey Single Malt and Blended Japanese Whiskey. 43% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2025 Suntory Global Spirits Import Company, Chicago, Illinois.
There's something special about opening a bottle of Dewar's 12-year with the people who matter most. It brings out the stories, the laughter, and the kind of moments you don't plan, but never forget. Built on tradition, made for right now, and best when shared. Dewar's 12-year-old.
WhiskyCast is a production of Cask Strength Media, copyright 2025, and comes to you from the charming, yet regrettably dry town of Haddonfield, New Jersey. I'm Mark Gillespie, reminding you that when you drink, please drink responsibly. Thanks for listening.